The tale of two ethics complaints. Two members of Watertown City Council subject to the complaints, but some argue that they are not being treated fairly, that they're being treated very differently. Here's 7 News reporter Lexi Bruning.
If it was me who was being accused of ethical wrongdoing, I would want to do anything and everything to let people know that that wasn't the case.
The comment made October 21st by Watertown Mayor Sarah Pierce at our digital news desk has ruffled some feathers, given an ethics complaint was filed against her on May 9th, 2023. Filed by developer PJ Simeo, the complaint accuses Mayor Pierce of making defamatory statements at a city council meeting when she claimed Simeo was involved in extortion regarding the controversial Watertown Golf Club purchase. It was received by email and approved by then city manager Ken Mix, but now, more than a year later, the complaint has seemingly gone nowhere. Councilmember Lisa Ruggiero brought it up at Monday night's city council meeting while discussing a different ethics complaint against colleague Cliff Olney, which she says transpired quickly.
It was within days of the complaint coming in that they had the ethics board meeting.
The complaint against Olney by former Mayor Jeff Smith was signed on September 11th, 2023. The ethics board met 4 days later on September 15th. Smith signed the complaint as both the mayor and a resident, using his home address on the paperwork. Mayor Pierce said during Monday night's meeting that ethics proceedings aren't tools for the public to file a complaint.
Ethics proceedings are an internal tool for city officials and city employees to use if you have an ethical concern about a elected official or city employee.
But Ruggiero says, according to the city attorney, Watertown should allow any complaint to be made, but the attorney acknowledged she can't speak for what was done before.
She said anyone from the public could, as long as it was not frivolous. So that certainly contradicts what the mayor said.
Pierce doesn't believe the city charter allows for ethics complaints to come from the public. The ethics board talked about changing that in July 2023, but no action was taken. As for the complaint, Pierce says she has no issue with it moving forward, believing it has no merit. Lexi Bruning, 7 News.